Welcome to Marketing Clarity with Outlaunch. I'm traveling today. My name is CJ. I'm the CEO of Outlaunch. And every Friday for 20 minutes, I talk about marketing in a clear point of view, meaning I don't talk to technical professionals in the industry. I'm talking to business owners trying to make things straightforward and easy to understand, not all the technical jargon to help your business out. So today's session is called AI Just Changed How People Find You. So let's get right into that. I'm going to talk about a couple points today. The shift that has already happened in AI, how AI decides who to choose, who to mention, how to check yourself in 10 minutes, and that's going to be pretty much it. But it's not going to be so straightforward as it sounds. So let's talk about the shift real fast. So last year, there's about 6% of people that were using AI. Only a year later, it's 45% of people who are asking AI about, questions and answers to their problems, to issues, to things they need to know, and also how to find a local business. That's a huge jump in 1 year. So imagine what next year and future years are going to hold. So um, with that being said, we know that the shift has already happened. We know that people are going to AI. We know that they're looking for local businesses the same way that they were looking for local businesses on search. Well, they're actually looking for them a different way, but they're still looking for businesses as they would on search. Now they're using AI, is my point. So we know that the shift has happened, but let's think about that shift for a second. Before you go and hire an agency, any agency, to get you found in AI, let's not pretend like it's going to be this magical deal that you just flip on. And let me paint a picture as to why. Um, Google was the one who controlled the game for the longest time. So if you said SEO or if you said search engine optimization, it was always about being found in Google. And why is that important compared to being found on AI? Well, Google's one platform. So they dominated everything. There was Bing, and there was now DuckDuckGo, and there's Yahoo and other search engines. But Google was taking, like, I forget now, at least 90, but it was like 93, 5%. The number, I look at the numbers every year, I forget exactly what it is right this minute. But Google for search engines was about 98%. Now, with AI, we're not looking at one platform. ChatGPT came into the game really strong, and ChatGPT is probably the most popular one. But there's Google AI, Gemini. There is Claude, which is a huge, has a huge rise in users. There is Perplexity, and then there is a handful of, there's Grok, which is on specifically tied to X. There's Meta AI, which is specifically tied to Facebook and Meta. So we're not talking, get me found on AI isn't like get me found on Google, because you're not talking about one platform. You're talking about multiple platforms. So whereas with SEO and search engine optimization, we were trying to, or businesses are trying to get found in that one platform when people searched. Now it's multiple platforms and they're consistently changing. Claude kind of just came out as this big player. All of a sudden, everyone's like, wow, Claude is amazing. I'm switching from ChatGPT to Claude. But now there's tons of people that love ChatGPT. Me, I started in ChatGPT, then I adopted Claude, but now I'm going to Google and I'm doing Google searches. And then I'm turning those Google long form questions into the Gemini chat right from the Google search engine. So I'm still going to Google using their search engine, but now I'm going deeper into their Gemini. And that's because Google might not be as popular, but it has probably the best data. It's one of the most robust. People who live on X, use that, and people who live on Facebook use that. And the interesting thing is, not all these people don't use just one platform. They use multiple. So think about yourself and what you do every day. You're jumping on multiple platforms. Okay, so here's the deal. We know the shift happened. We know people are on AI. you can probably attest to it to yourself that you are on AI. And if you're not, then you're part of that, 55% that will be very shortly, because the minute you touch it, you realize, wow, this is a pretty good tool. It's very useful in many ways. And then you'll find your favorites and you'll bounce around and you'll try multiple depending on what you're doing. That's just what it is. Okay, so getting found on these platforms, getting mentioned when people search is a whole nother thing now. And it's clear by what I just mentioned that it's not a one size fits all deal. Each platform is referencing its own data. Gemini is using Google and all the data that it has. ChatGPT is very much tied to Bing. Um, and then you've got, different ones of these, for instance, pull from like LinkedIn or Reddit or Wikipedia as big sources. But like when they pull from LinkedIn, ChatGPT is loves articles that profiles write. But then Perplexity is a little bit more articles that businesses write. So the reason I kind of jump around like that is just to show you that everyone's doing their own thing as they're accessing data, finding the best data, finding what they like as an AI platform, and figuring out how to make that work. So as an agency like myself who was optimizing hardcore for SEO for Google, now we've got to look at a lot of different platforms and try to understand each one individually and how they work, which is what we're doing. So that gets me right to the point now of, hey, how AI decides who to name and who to mention. Um, so right off the bat, there's two things that are pretty important to understand. The first thing is that a lot of agencies right now are looking at AI as a separate thing. So, they have SEO that they're selling, and then now they have this new item. Oh, now we can sell AI optimization in addition. You know, we have decided as an agency ourselves that they're one and the same. They're different, but they're one and the same in the sense that all the good AI is built on a foundation of good SEO. So if you have a good foundation of SEO, then that's going to help you get a leg up on the AI side of things. And that doesn't mean that everything that you do in SEO is 100% correlates with AI, but a lot of similarities. The biggest similarity that I would say between Google and AI is that they have the same goal: relevant content. So when someone does a search in Google or someone asks a question in AI, it's all about relevance. And what does that mean? That means that whatever someone is asking or looking for, the platform is trying to deliver the best, most relevant version of that ask, of that search. And that goal, although everyone says Google changes and AI changes, and that's all true, in a way it never changes because it's always trying to accomplish the one goal. So as long as you yourself as a business think about yourself and your brand as content creators and content that's being put out that represents my brand, then the most relevant content to represent your brand is going to be the best way to get found, because Google's looking for the most relevant. Now let's get right to specifics. Reviews. Reviews are one of the biggest things that help you in mentions. And recent reviews, not if you have 1,000 reviews, that's wonderful, but how many do you have this month, last month, in the last 3 months, today? How many recent reviews? Because stale reviews and old reviews are just that, stale and old. Now, they might paint a picture of how your business is overall, but is a review 5 years ago going to hold as much weight as a review 5 days ago? And the answer is no, it's not for AI specifically. So reviews is a big part of your game, just like it always was for SEO. But now the way to look at reviews is more about currency, like how current they are in frequency. So you want frequency of new reviews, you want them to be current, and you want them to be relevant to the services and the way your business is represented to this, at this moment. So information that matches everywhere is another big one. Local directories. So there's a lot of overlap in the word SEO, but a lot of times when SEO companies say the word local SEO, they're referring to the Google map. but that Google Map extends to other maps and other directories. So you got your Bing, you got your Meta platform, your Facebook, but then you have Super Pages, YP.com, BBB, Better Business Bureau, and dozens to hundreds of other local directories. And these are major local directory sites. So local SEO is often referred to as, they're often referring to as local listings. And you want to make sure that your name, address, and phone number, we call it NAP, N-A-P, name, address, or phone number, is consistent throughout all of these directories. And you might say to yourself, how could it be inconsistent, But as a business grows and things happen and other companies have similar names, as you're in buildings and move addresses, change from your home to your office, start with a certain number, change to a new number that you forgot about because it's been a few years, these things become inconsistent and they need to be consistent. Now, here's the interesting thing about this, though, as that's a great tool for SEO and it is a great tool for AI, being consistent across all these directories. We have run into with our customers where we're analyzing what we call our AI visibility reports. We actually run reports on the AI platforms to check visibility of our customers. And then we start getting recommendations from each platform, ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, telling us what we can improve and what we're doing good. And in our improvements, what we've noticed is that some customers have great directory listings across these big major directories, but then the platform, it says, well, we want more local. It's always about hyper local if you are a local business. So what I mean by that is most of the businesses that are probably on this or watching this are some form of local businesses that serves a local territory. And if you're a local business that serves a local territory, then you need to think about yourself as a hyper local, needs to be hyper local in all your content, all your marketing, and that includes your listings. So are there local directories, local blogs, local Facebook groups? That's not exactly a directory, but anything hyper local to your community where you can be on those websites, on those directories, on those tied to those businesses. Because that is going to be what takes you, further on AI. So continuing this, how AI decides, what to name, let's look at what AI really is. And I say this with someone who uses AI at least 5 hours a day on multiple platforms. So I talk to AI a lot. I have AI help me a lot with tools. It is not my brain. It is my extension of my brain as a tool to help me gather information and understand things and get some places faster. And I can tell you, and anyone who uses AI like I do or even more can tell you, AI in different platforms love to lie to you, and they love to tell you what you want to hear. They're not this perfect system. The only people who consider it perfect are typically the people who plug something in, get a quick answer, don't necessarily read it all, and maybe use it very limited. And because that's how I felt at first. But the more you use it, the more you go back and forth with it, the more you talk to it frequently, you realize that it's not perfect. It misses a lot of things. So there's one thing that it is. It is extremely literal. So I want you to understand that because that's super important to how AI decides who to mention when doing a search or how to answer a question when doing a search. AI is going to be a very literal, it's going to take your request very literally, and it's going to give you a specific answer. So here's an example of that. I had a customer who we're looking at their website, and they are solid ranked #1 for like years in this local city. Now, their address of their warehouse, because they're a service business, is just outside the city in the next city over, but it's a smaller city. So their main company is targeting the larger city next to it, but their warehouse, is often, and this is the case for a lot of companies, often not in the same exact location. They do service a bigger territory, but this main city is their main deal. And they're solid #1. So I said, who is the best, in this case, electrician in this city? And I did it with Claude and I did it with ChatGPT. And I did not get the person who ranks number one in Google, my customer that I wanted. And I'm sitting here asking, and I asked a very specific search. People ask a lot of things. That's the other thing. This isn't like keywords in Google where the same people are asking the same thing. When you go to AI, it's long form. It's a lot of different questions. It's a more detailed request. It's not just electrician near me. It's so I typed, who is the best electrician in this city? So what did both of them come back? Not with my person, who's literally number one and has great reviews. So I said, why? Why didn't you choose this person? And they said, oh, wow, now that you mentioned it, I overlooked it and I should have chose this person. Both of them said that they overlooked this person and they should have chose it now that I replied. But your customers, when they're searching, they're not going to ask for this person and ask why it wasn't chosen. They're going to go with the people that were chosen first round. But it was interesting when I started talking back and saying, why didn't you choose this person? And they said, they being AI, said, well, one of them said, well, the location isn't in the city. So even though it's near the city, I went directly with people who are in the city because you said best in the city. So they are very literal on in the city. And then I said, why else? And they said, well, you looked for an electrician and this person's an electrician and an HVAC company. So we considered them more of a home service. So we went with electricians only. Well, how do you get around that for someone trying to rank in AI? And there's ways that we're working that and figuring that out and making that happen. But it just goes to show you that this is not a simple thing where every AI is going to all of a sudden rank your business. There's going to be a lot of struggles to it. One, you have to have great reviews. You have to have locations that are close to your main territory that you're trying to target. If you're a multiple industry business, you're going to have to try to paint yourself as an expert in each individual service somehow. And it's most likely going to be through reviews. One of the reasons they didn't choose them for HVAC is because right now it's the hot, busy season, and a lot of their most recent reviews were HVAC reviews. So they didn't have as many, I guess, maybe recent electrician reviews, possibly. Also, the interesting thing, ChatGPT crawled their website for the reviews. It didn't crawl Google. So it didn't actually look at their Google reviews. What it looked at was the website where we had mentioned of the views. So it was taking the website number. So without getting too much more detailed, I'm trying to give you a real life example to show you that this isn't so cut and dry, but it is very literal, and each platform does something very different. So, but there's consistencies across the board. They want you to tell the truth. They want you to be honest. Here's another example. I had a customer's website that says, we save you thousands, and another customer's website that says award winning. Well, the platforms in the report said, well, we didn't rank them because they didn't list the awards. So they just said award winning. They didn't have a link to the award. They didn't list what the award was. They didn't have accreditation of proof that that award is true. The other one said, it says you save thousands, but it didn't say how or why. So it was very vague. We didn't rank them. So you can't just go around putting words like, we save you money. You have to say, we save you money by doing X, Y, Z in our process or with our vendors or whatever that may be. So right now, what I want you to take away from this is that AI, and the same with search engines, Google in particular, are all about having the most relevant content. We're in the content game. SEO, AI optimization, your business as a brand is in the content game. Yes, you're trying to provide a service, but until you can get that person who signs the contract or gets you in their house, you're not providing anything. So what you can provide before you actually provide your service is content to try to build trust in your service, to try to explain your service, to try to represent your service. So this isn't the day where we can just put a website up and set it and forget it, or let the agency write all the content for you without you even reading it, or go to AI and say, write me up this, and then not even proofread it back. This is the day where you take your business and everything about it down to the most nitty gritty of details. Who you are, what's your story of your founding, who is part of your company. Go deeper into those employees and those teams, and what are their specialties and what are their backgrounds and why are they great. What are your processes? How do you represent the way you do your services? What are your operations? Like, it's not about giving things away to your competitor. Your don't worry about your competitor. If your competitor is smart, they're going to do this with their own business. And if they're not, then they're going to try to follow you and they're going to be too late. So the point is put content out there that's detailed and explain stuff, because you as a consumer, when you're searching for someone, you want to build trust and you want to know what's going on. So give your customer who's searching for you trust and knowledge of what's going on. Go down deep. And so how do you check yourself in 10 minutes? Well, open up search engines and start asking for businesses near me. And then if you're not, start asking the questions that you think your customer would ask. How do you find who's the best this in this area? And then if you don't see your stuff, start asking why. Start searching your name. What do you think about this company? How would you recommend them as an AI? No, you wouldn't. Why? This is what a lot of people are doing. There's no one out there who's an expert at getting people found or mentioned in AI. There's only companies like us who are attempting to be great at it because we're great at SEO. And no one's perfect at it. Everyone's learning it, and it's changing. So everyone's continuing to learn as it constantly changes. So go talk to it. Talking to it's the best. And that's what I recommend. Now, what we need to do is continue further and dive deeper. So next Friday at 9 o'clock, we're going to talk about backlinks, blogs, and the long game. I'm going to add in there press releases and basically content, because it's a content game. So let's talk long game about how to achieve these results next week on session 4. And I thank you for your time. Have a great weekend. I kept it at 20 minutes. Go to work. Have a good day. And we'll see you next